What's up everyone, Aaron Limpany here with Aaron Limpany Design, and in the next several videos I'm going to show you how to make this incredible interactive neumorphic slide. And so the cool thing about this slide is that it's in this super trendy and I think really elegant neumorphic style, but it's also got this interactivity, so you can actually click on each one of these buttons as many times as you want, and you can set these however you'd like them. And so there's a ton of applications here with activating graphs and having links to different slides and having things moving across. You can have drop-down menus appear if you want to put more information on a slide but don't want to overcrowd it. So there's tons of applications. I'm going to break down exactly how to build this. And so in this first video, we're going to learn how to build what you see here, all of the basics, all of the individual shapes, and then we're going to animate it in future videos. Let's get started. So to get started building this slide, we're going to open PowerPoint, create a new document, and then we're going to first take care of changing this background color to the same one that you see here, this kind of bluish gray color. So we're going to go to Design, and if you don't see this format pane on the right side, you're going to hit Format Background. See where it says Solid Fill, we're going to keep that. We're going to go to Color, More Colors, and it'll probably pop up with this color wheel here. So you're just going to go up to this top menu and click on the RGB sliders. Then we'll come over to hex color, and the color that we're going to use is E7, E8, ED. You by no means have to use this color, but it's a really nice one for neumorphic design. So now that we've got the background in place, we're going to go ahead and build out this button on the left side. We're going to start with that one. So we're going to come back in to your slide. We're going to go Home. We're going to go to Shapes, Circle, and we're just going to create a circle by clicking and dragging. So we're actually holding Shift as we do this to make sure it stays a circle. So if I'm not holding Shift, it's going to be all over the place, and you're going to have to use that height and width that you see there to get it right. So hold Shift, create the perfect circle. We'll say right around 4.1, but it doesn't have to be exactly there. Excuse me, it's allergy season here. So we're going to go up to No Outline, and then we're going to go to Shape Fill, and under Recent Colors, you're going to find that color you just used for the background. And you're going to click on that. All right, so now it's going to kind of disappear into the background. And so we want to make this pop a little bit. So as you can see on this slide, we've got this lower side shadow, and then we've got this upper side light shadow. So we're going to build both of these. Now we can't put two shadows on a shape in PowerPoint, so we're actually going to duplicate this shape in just a second to create the second shadow. So we'll go back into our Format Shape pane. We'll go to Effects, we'll go to Shadow, and we'll go to Outer Shadow here. We're going to click this first one. It's offset bottom right. And as you can see, it's pretty harsh. So we're actually going to change the shadow color. We're going to go to More Colors, and we're going to use hex code A1, A5, B9. And we're going to hit OK. Boom. Now we've got a much softer shadow already. But then we're going to make some changes here. We're going to keep transparency and size at 60 and 100 respectively. We're going to change the blur to 20 points. Going to keep the angle at 45, and we're going to go with distance of 10 and hit enter. Boom, look at that, nice shadow. So now we've got this nice first circle. We're going to hit Command C and Command V to paste that in place. And then we're going to come back to the shadow adjustment menu. We're going to keep the preset, but we're going to change the color back to that same color that we used before. However, we're then going to go to More Colors, and instead of using white for this shadow, we still want it to be soft. So we're going to make this menu bigger if you'd like. That'll give you more control. As you can see, when you make this bigger, this slider expands, so you have more room to play with. So I'm going to make mine about there. That's plenty to play with. And we're going to drag this to the left, not all the way to the left, but drag it to the left so you can see a little bit of daylight on the left side of this actual slider, and hit OK. Boom, look at that. Nice little glow right there. Pretty subtle. And we're actually going to keep all of these settings the same, except we're going to change this angle. We want this to flip 180 degrees to the opposite side. So we're going to add 180 to 45, and we get 225. Boom. Now this is nice on this other side. So we're going to bring this right over our other circle. And I think that shadow is a bit too dark. So I'm actually going to drag this a little more to the left, just a little bit of daylight there, hit OK. Yeah, that's exactly where I want it. So then we're going to select both of these. We're going to go to Shape Format, Align, and we're going to Align Center, and we're going to Align Middle. And that just makes sure that both of these are perfectly aligned. Then we're going to hit Option Command G on a Mac. On Windows, I don't know what the command is. So just right click, hit Group, and you can click Group here, and it'll show you what that command is. So now that they're grouped, we can align again, but we're aligning to the PowerPoint slide. So we're going to align these middle. Boom. Now it's perfectly aligned to the middle. just like our button is here. All right. And so I think we're a little bit to the right. So we're just going to shift this a little bit. And yeah, that's close enough. All right. So now we've got this group here. We're going to create the raised section of this button right here, this raised section first. Now we're creating this before the pressed in version because that way we can just copy one of these circles and send it to the back and make sure they're exactly the same size so we don't make any mistakes. So we're going to select this, Command C, Command V to paste. All right. And we're going to align this here. And we're going to hold Shift and Control. Shift is going to keep it exactly the same ratio. Control is going to allow us to shrink this on the center so we can get the button size right where we want it. And I think that's about right. Yeah, that looks good. Perfect. So then we've got the center button already made. Terrific. Then we're going to click on this again. We're going to Command C, Command V. We're going to drag this over to the side real quick. We're going to ungroup. So on a Mac, that's Shift, Option, Command G. On either machine, you can right click, group, and ungroup down here. All right, so we're going to delete one of these. Whoops, that's both of them still selected. So we're going to delete one of these circles. We're going to click on the other one. And now to make this look like it is recessed or depressed button, we want to switch this shadow to the inside. And so if our light is coming from this upper 45-degree direction, right? We have light hitting here and then we have shadow. We actually want this shadow to be on the upper inside so the light is kind of skimming over it, right? Like it's skimming over the hole. So we click here to go to our shadow. We go to presets. We're going to go to inner and we're going to go to this inside top left. So we click on that one. And again, this is going to reset all of our shadow specs so you can see how dark this looks. You can actually see how much nicer our shadow looks here. So we're going to change the color from black to the shadow color that we already selected. Look, that's already so much better. Transparency, we're going to take that up to 60. Blur, we're going to take this to 20 points. We're going to leave the angle at 225. And then for the distance, we're going to do 10. So it's very similar to what we've got already on the button. Boom, look at that, nice. But now we need a light shadow on the other side. And we can't just copy and paste another circle on top this time because both of these are on the inside, so we'd cover up our shadow. So instead, we're going to get creative and we're going to go over to fill. We're actually going to do a gradient fill. And as you can see, I've been playing with the gradients, so this is actually a gradient we're going to use later. But for this gradient, we're going to select the first point and we're going to go to 50%. And this is going to be the same color that we used as the base. So we'll hit that right there, boom, base color. And then the color over here is going to be the same color we used for our light shadow there. So we've already got a nice looking kind of depressed circle here, but we're actually going to do one more thing and we're going to click and add another stop. We're going to set this to 75%. I was actually only off by 1%, proud of myself. And we're going to change this color also to the center color here. So now we've got these nice 3-stop gradient and we've just got this subtle light shadow that's kind of casting across. So you can just see that rim here. All right, now we're going to send this back over and we're going to align it perfectly with the other button. And as you can see, this is how our button will look when it's actually pressed in, other than this shadow won't be here because that's part of the other kind of raised piece that's behind this right now. So we're going to go to shape format. And we're going to send this backward. Boom. Now it's right behind this top button. And if you want to verify that, you can actually drag the top button off. Look at that. Beautiful. We'll undo that. Now we've got our button finished. So we'll need to add the text. So we've actually got 3 text layers here. We've got the click here in our gradient color. And then behind this, I'll actually move this so you can see. Behind this, we've got a click here in gray that this one turns into when pressed. And then we've got the functions, which is the final text that will appear after this has been pressed in our gradient as well. So we're going to undo that. And we're going to build all of these text layers on our new button here. So we're just going to double click to create a text layer. And we're going to type functions first, since that's going to be the bottom one. And we're going to come up here, change the font. I used Aileron. You can use any font you want to. You might not have Aileron on your machine. I've got it from Adobe Typekit, so it's available to me. If you don't have it, no worries, just choose a different font. So I'm going to Aileron Bold. I think that'll be about right here. And we're going to go to 32 for size. Then we're going to bring that down here. We're going to align. You can see PowerPoint is giving me the alignment here. We're going to align this center. Make sure that text is aligned center. If you copy and paste without doing that, then when you retype the other text, you might get some funky stuff going on because it's going to change the size and shape of the text box. Whereas if you align center, it's all going to stay perfectly aligned to the middle here. And again, if you're worried about the alignment, go to shape format, go to align, align middle, align center. Boom. Now all of this is perfectly aligned. So we're going to create the colorful gradient for this one. So we're going to come over to the format shape. We're going to go to text options. We're going to go to gradient fill. And as you can see, this is doing the same gradient we just created for the depressed circle. So we are going to get rid of this stop just by dragging off there. We're going to take the first stop. We're going to go to 20%. We're going to keep this one at 100% for this first color. Oh, and you're keeping all of these gradient presets, by the way. We're not going to change any of those throughout this. So on this first color, you're going to click down, go to more colors. We're again going to go to the hex sliders. And the purple that we're going to use, again, feel free to use any color here, but the purple that we're going to use is 5827ED. And we're going to hit OK. Boom, look at that, beautiful. And then we're going to use a pink color on this one. So we're going to go over to colors, more colors. And then on the hex color, we're going to go to DC38FF. Hit enter, and look at that, beautiful, beautiful gradient color. All right, so then before we send this to the back, we're gonna hit Command C, Command V to paste a new one. All right, we're gonna go ahead and center this perfectly over the existing text. Again, if you're worried about it, what do? Go to shape format, align, align center, align, align middle, bam. All right, so you're gonna take this first one and you're gonna hit send backward. Now it's behind the other functions text, and send backward again. And now it's behind this raised button. And if you want to verify that, make sure you see these kind of 4 arrows icon appearing. Just drag it out and see how it's below this top button, but above this bottom button. That means it's at the right layer. Just hit undo there, and we're back in place. So then this top one is going to be click here. Got a little ahead of myself with the H there. So now we've got our nice gradient click here. All we need is one more layer, and that is click here in our shadow gray color. So we're going to Command C, Command V to paste. We're going to arrange it right here. And then we're going to go to text options, solid fill. And as you can see, it's not quite perfectly aligned. So we're going to fix that in just a second. We're going to go down to colors, and we're going to pick the shadow color that we used before. Boom, perfect. And then we're going to select all again. And we're going to align center and align middle. And now we're in place. You might see a little bit of an edge here, kind of like a haze from that gradient. As you can see, as you zoom in, it sort of disappears. That's just Windows rasterizing those effects. So don't worry about it. So you're going to select your gray, click here, and you're going to hit 1, 2. And you can verify that it's at the right level, again, by dragging out, and you can see it coming out from behind the raised button here. So you're going to hit undo there. And our button is totally done. This one is ready to animate. So let's start building the other shapes. All right, so now we're gonna start building out these rounded rectangles on the right side. And as you can see, these also appear to be pressed in. So if we copy the pressed in circle that's beneath this button, and then we change the shape, we're gonna get these rounded rectangles. So things are gonna start moving a bit faster now. So let's go back in here. And we're gonna select. Now PowerPoint will only select things if you totally surround it. So if we do this, nothing is gonna be selected. If we do this, all of this is gonna be selected, right? If we just do this, whoops, nothing. If we do this and we get the whole text box, all 3 pieces of this text are gonna be selected. So what we wanna do is grab just the center here, and then we're gonna hold Shift while we click on each text box to deselect. Then we're gonna hit Command C, Command V. And that's going to copy all of the central circles. Now we're gonna click, this is the top group. This is the raised group, and we're gonna hit delete. Boom, now we've got our depressed circle right here. So we're going to go over to the shape format menu. We're gonna go to edit shape, change shape, and we're actually gonna select this rounded rectangle. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you rounded rectangle. We're gonna click that, boom, got it. Now we're going to make that a little bit smaller on the height, and we're gonna grab this yellow square, and we're going to drag it to the right, and look at that. Now we've got this nice rounded rectangle, and you can put that wherever looks good to you. We're gonna expand this out a little bit, and we're gonna drop this right about there in place. So let's see how we did. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. All right, maybe just a little bit taller. I'm happy with that. All right, So then we're going to copy that and paste and just line that up approximately, copy and paste. And you don't even have to align them perfectly because we're gonna go to the alignment tools here. We're actually gonna select all three of these, go to shape format, and we want these to be evenly spaced and then on center, right? So we're gonna go to align and we're gonna hit distribute vertically. And now they're all perfectly evenly spaced. So then we're gonna hit Option Command G, or again, right click, group, and group. And we'll go to the align tools again, and we're gonna align middle. Bam. Oh, already had it perfect. Look at that. So these are all three aligned perfectly to the middle of the slide, and they're aligned with each other, and they are evenly spaced apart. All right, so let's see how we did. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like we've shifted our whole slide, just a little bit to the right, but that's fine. So as you remember, we've got the sliders that are gonna be built out. We've got this text that needs to go on first. So we're actually going to go to the text here. We're gonna copy this and paste it. So we've got all three layers of text. We're gonna select the first one, which is click here. We're gonna delete it. We're gonna grab this center one. We're gonna pull that out. We're gonna center it right on that rectangle, and we're gonna delete functions. Boom, now we've got this nice piece of text that we want. And these are gonna sit right on top of these rounded rectangles. All right, so we're gonna put that right about, let's see where that's aligned. It's a little more to the center of the rectangle because it looks like we're ending on the right side here. All right, we're gonna move our text a little bit right there. Okay, that looks about good. And this one is going to be new tech. We're gonna type out new tech. And then we're going to copy this down. And this is going to be applications. And this one's gonna be AI integration. All right, and as you can see, these are too far to the right, so we're gonna grab these again. We're gonna move these over until the bottom one's right about here. So we can't use the alignment tools here now because A, we've got the rectangles grouped, and B, if we select both the text and the rectangle, sometimes it's unpredictable as to which ones are gonna move. So we just wanna grab this and use Microsoft's built-in guides to make sure this is centered right on that rectangle. And so I think it's trying to align to the bottom of the circle right now, so that's gonna be a bit of a problem. There we go. So if you zoom in, it'll stop trying to align to objects that are off screen. So you can actually line it up right like that until you see that dashed line appear. And this one we've already aligned, but we're just gonna verify, yes, indeed, that is in the right place. All right, so now we've got all three of these. So we're going to select, make sure you hold Shift and not Caps Lock. We're gonna Command C, Command V, we're gonna place those. We're gonna make sure that those are aligned vertically with our previous lettering, and looks like we are good to go there. And we're actually going to come over to text options, and we're gonna change the fill color to our light shadow color. All right, not white, but our light shadow color. And we're gonna slide these over. And we'll line up AI integration kind of right there. So we will align all of these left, and we're going to go to shape format, align, align, left. Boom, and now they're all perfectly aligned left where we want them. And so these are sitting on top. And actually it looks like the color these are is the main gray color that we have. So we're gonna change this to our main gray. Perfect. All right, yes, that makes sense because now they blend in. All right, now don't worry about the fact that you're seeing these overlapping each other. These are in the correct order. We want basically these darker texts to be covered up when the gradient rectangles slide in from the left. We actually have hidden rectangles right now that are gonna appear from this side and slide in and cover this text in our animation. But we want it to be underneath these lighter colored letters. So that's how this is gonna operate. Don't worry about the arrangement right now. So then also in our animation, we've got these little circles that are part of our animation that are gonna slide in over from the side, right? So we need to create these as well. All right, so for these circles, these are raised circles. So we're just gonna go back to our main button. We're gonna hit Command C, Command V on this group. Boom, already got our circle in place, but we're gonna change the shadow settings a little bit once we get this to the right size. So we're gonna drag this until we're aligned with this rounded rectangle and make sure we're aligned with the rectangle. There we go. And we're gonna hold Shift and Control again. until this is right about the right size. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks just right to me. All right, so once this is in place, we're actually gonna change the size of the shadows a little bit. So we're gonna click once to select the group, click twice to select the first circle, and then we're gonna go to shadow. This is the one with the light shadow. So we're gonna keep everything the same, except we're gonna change the blur to 14, and we're gonna change the distance to 6. And we're doing this because when we reduce the size of the circle, the shadow actually stays the same size because these are measured in points, not percentages. And so we need to make those changes to make sure this looks the same relative to its scale. We don't want the same size shadow on a much smaller object than our large circle, if that makes sense. So then we go to shape format, and we're actually gonna send this one backward because they're grouped and we need to access the circle behind it. So now this has been sent backward one layer, and then we click again, and that selects the other circle, the one with the dark shadow. And so we're gonna change this to the same thing, 14 points of blur and 6 points of distance. And then we're going to hit, we're gonna click back in, and we're going to hit send backward. And then if we click here, yep, we've got the light shadow one here. We're gonna click off, and we've got our perfect little circle. So then we're just gonna copy and paste this right into the other rectangles. Okay, we've got those copied and pasted, and I actually forgot to change the size of the font here. So we're actually gonna reduce the font size on each of these down to 28. And those 4 points are actually gonna save us significantly. So we're gonna keep these left side ones in place, but we're actually gonna move each one of these darker ones a little bit to the right. So these are well spaced versus these icons. So as you can see, we look like we're at pretty good spacing here now. All right, I'm happy with that. So next thing we're gonna do is add the icons on top of these circles. So if you didn't know, PowerPoint actually gives you the ability to add icons. So we're gonna go over to Insert Icons, and we're just gonna search for each one of these icons. So we're gonna search for light bulb, and we're gonna search for wind, and we're gonna search for computer. Now, once you've inserted each one of these icons, you can click out of stock images, and we're gonna format each one of these graphics. So we're gonna set these approximately where they're gonna go. So as you can see in our main slide, these icons are all gradient filled, but if we go to select these, you'll notice we don't have the option to gradient fill. Now that's because each one of these icons is in a graphics format rather than in a raster format. So in a graphics format, these are being graphed. These are vector icons. We want them to be raster icons made of pixels, and that will allow us to add that gradient fill. However, on these indicator buttons, these change colors, and we're gonna need these to be white at some point. So we're actually going to duplicate all of these and bring them down over this direction. And we actually want to make these white first because it's going to be easier to change these to a solid white while they're still in the graphics format. So we're going to change those to solid white. And then we're going to come over to these icons. And don't worry, we'll align these later. If your OCD is going crazy, I apologize. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go to graphics format and we're going to convert to shape. Again, that's just on the graphics format tab, which is gonna disappear after you convert it to a shape. Then we're gonna go over to gradient fill, and we're gonna get rid of this stop, and we're gonna do the exact same gradient that we had for the click here. So we're gonna go over to 20%. We're gonna change this color to our purple, and we're gonna change this 100% color to our pink. Boom, we've got our gradient fill. Now we're gonna resize each of these objects together so they say about the same size. So we're gonna hold shift, and that looks about right. And we're gonna align each of these, we're gonna align each of these with their respective circles. All right, once we've aligned each of these to their respective circles, we're next going to create these little gradient paths before we go ahead and make the little indicator lights at the bottom. So to make these gradient paths, we're gonna go up to shapes, and we're first gonna go over to this curved connector. All right, and we're not gonna connect to any of these. We're just going to draw our little connector right about like that. That looks pretty good, but let's see. All right, we wanna go a little more vertical. So we're just gonna drag this down, and if you go too far, it'll flip, so don't go quite that far. Make sure you go about right there. That looks pretty good. And we're gonna keep the yellow piece right in the center. We're gonna go over to shape format, and we're gonna go to outline. Again, this is just an outline, so you'll have no fill. We're gonna take the weight up to about 4.5 points. That looks good. And then we're gonna turn this into a gradient line, And as you notice, it's got 4 gradient stops. Don't need them. We're gonna get rid of these. Again, we're gonna do the same gradient, 20%. We're gonna change this to our purple, and we're going to change this color to our pink. And boom, we now have our first gradient line, except why are these ends so ugly? Look at those ends, they are ugly. We're gonna click on this, and we're gonna come down to cap type, and we're gonna change that to round from flat, and voila, we have a beautiful, nice little gradient line there. Looks like we did ours a little thicker, so we'll change this over to 6-point weight. Next, we're just going to copy and paste this, flip it over at the bottom. So we're going to make sure these two are perfectly aligned. We're gonna bring this down, go up to shape format, gonna go to rotate, and we're going to flip vertical. And there we go. Now we're gonna drag this down, and you'll see the little guides indicate exactly when it is equidistant from the center of the slide. And you're done. And finally, we're gonna create this last shape. So we're gonna do the center. This is just gonna be a standard line. And we're gonna start at the same point, end at the same point, and we are going to copy the same settings. So make sure you change your cap to round. And with the color, we're going to gradient line, and we're gonna do the exact same gradient. And we're just gonna make sure this is aligned to the middle of the slide, and you've got your 3 lines in place. And it looks like we might have shortened this one a little bit so that these kind of follow the curvature of this button right here. So we just shortened this one up a little bit. And then finally, you're gonna build your 3 indicator lights down at the bottom left. So we are first going to reduce the size of these significantly. And we're going to align these together. So we're gonna line these middle. And then we're gonna bring them a lot closer together. And we'll get the exact alignment once we get the circles in place, but that looks pretty good for now. And to get these circles, we're simply going to copy and paste one of the circles from here, reduce the size. And once you've got your 3 circles, we're again gonna go to arrange, we're going to go to align, and we're going to distribute horizontally to make sure these are spread out perfectly. Then we're gonna place each one of, we're gonna need to bring these front, range, bring front. And we're going to need to arrange each of these with their respective circles. So we're gonna do the same order that we've got on the right side. So just like that, all right? Obviously, we're gonna need each one of these to be a gradient, but again, we've got a circle behind here that looks like this. So we're going to copy and paste all 3 of these. We're gonna line them up perfectly with the other circles here. And then we're gonna select each circle group. We're gonna delete one of the circles. We're gonna select each one of these circles, and then we're going to go to gradient fill, and look at that, it's already there for us. So next thing we're gonna do is group each one of these sections. So we're gonna group the icon with the circle behind it, and then we're gonna send all 3 of these groups to the back. And as you can see, then we've got our other circles in front. So we're gonna select each one of these icons. We're gonna go to graphics format, convert to shape, and then we're going to gradient fill each one of those shapes, and bada boom, bada bing, we've got our slide built. But wait, we're still missing one important section. So when these sliders come across, in addition to having each one of these little indicator circles, we've got another rectangle over here. So I'll show you exactly what this one looks like. If you forgot, we've got this gradient rectangle that slides in and fills up. So first, we've got this rounded rectangle that's filling up the rounded rectangles on the right. And then secondly, we need a way to make this rounded rectangle kind of appear from the left. Like, where is this coming from? And the secret is this shape right here. And we're gonna build that in just a second. So first, to create these rounded rectangles, we're going to take this group, we're gonna hit copy, and we're gonna paste it, and we're gonna put it right back in place on top of our other rectangles. Okay, and then we're gonna change this to a gradient fill, and we're gonna make sure these are aligned, even though right now it doesn't matter that much, it's just for our peace of mind. All right, so we've got the gradient fill there, and that looks pretty good. Oh, except for that these are groups, so the gradient fill is kind of increasing as we go down. That's kind of a cool effect, but we do want each of these to be individual. So we're gonna Shift Option Command G, and voila, now each one of them is separately created. So now that we've got all 3 of these in place, we're just gonna select each of them. We're gonna slide them to the left. okay? And we're going to arrange these, and we're just gonna keep sending them backward until they go behind this button completely. Okay, so those are all the way behind the button. Now we're gonna need to play with these layers in a bit because obviously these are gonna need to slide over top of the rounded rectangles. So right now, we're going to select this group and we're going to send these all the way to the back, and we're going to send these all the way to the back. Now they're going to disappear, so we're going to bring them forward, and they are in front of these rounded rectangles. So now when we slide over each one of these rectangles, it is behind the indicator, behind the main text, but it's covering the rounded rectangle and the dark text. Make sense? Awesome. All right, so now we're going to make the shape that's going to allow these to reveal, and it's going to allow these to reveal. Okay, so this is actually super easy. We're going to create a shape. We're going to create a rectangle, and we're just going to cover this whole side right here, and we're going to drag it partway across the rounded rectangles. Okay, so we can drag it as far as we want, really, but we actually kind of want to drag it to right about here. That's about right. Leave this in place for now. We're going to go no outline. We're going to shape fill this with our main gray color, so it's the same color as everything else. Okay, so once you've created your rectangle and changed the color, we're going to go to this group. We're going to Command C, Command V. We're going to paste another group. All right, and we're going to make sure that this is perfectly aligned with our previous group, right? So we're going to make sure that this is perfectly lined up, because if it's not going to look quite right. And then we're going to ungroup this. This is very important. We're going to ungroup it. We're going to select our rectangle first, and then we're going to hold Shift and select each of these shapes. Remember, select the rectangle first or this is not going to work. Then go to Merge Shapes, Subtract. And voila, we've now revealed our rectangles again. And what do we have here? We've got a shape that actually shows the cutouts. And I'm going to change this shape's color so you can see it real quick. This is our new shape. So we've created basically a mask that allows us to drag other pieces out. Whoops, if I can get that rectangle selected. Drag other pieces out from behind, and it looks like they're appearing. Okay, so this is where some of that magic comes in. So then this piece, we're going to send backward until we see everything we want to see and nothing that we don't. Okay, and so we keep sending it backward until something starts appearing that we don't want to appear. So then we hit bring forward, done. All right, look at that. All right, so our final step, we're gonna group each one of these icon sections because we're gonna need those grouped to animate. So we're gonna select Option Command G or right click and group. All right, and then we're gonna select these, Option Command G. All right, cool. And with this one, Option Command G to group. And then we're gonna select each one of those groups. We're gonna drag these to the left. Okay. And then we're gonna go to Shape Format, send backward until we get behind this rectangle over here. This part gets a little tedious, but we're gonna make it happen. And just like that, we're ready to go. If you wanna verify, you can drag these out and look at how those reveal. And if you want to check for comparison, here's how we did. Look at that. These slides are almost identical. We just kind of moved everything to the right a little bit. If you want to clean that up, you can, but I'm fine with it. Both of these are perfectly good arrangements. That's all there is to building out this Neumorphic slide design. In our next video, we are going to get into animation so you can make it look like this.